Welcome everyone to QB Power Hour. Today is Thursday, September 7th, 2017, and today's episode is What's New in QuickBooks Desktop 2018. Yes, for QuickBooks Desktop lovers, this is the same as Christmas or holidays where you get a free gift, which is the gift of new features every year. The agenda for today, we'll talk real quick about QB Power Hour and the hosts. We'll talk about the CPE process, and then the topics we'll cover is we're going to learn the new features of QuickBooks Desktop 2018, and then we're going to understand how the new features can save time or add efficiency to any accounting process. About QB Power Hour, we're a webinar series, usually twice a month or every other week. We do have alternating schedules based on tax seasons and things like that. The next episode will be actually in 3 weeks because of the extension tax season. So we're going to have an episode on November 21st, and it will be sort of a part 2 or a continuation of this episode. We're going to deep dive into the enterprise portion of the new features, which is focused around a new advanced inventory picking module. So we're going to talk about most of the features except for the enterprise features, and we're going to wait until November 21st to talk about specifically the enterprise features. The next episode will be after that on October 5th, and then after that October 19th, and that will follow or should follow the every other week schedule afterwards. We are planning to tentatively check the QB Power Hour website to make both of those ACE Advanced Continuing Education because we don't have any ACE in September. Today's episode is not an ACE or an ACE approved course. Usually we talk about 50% QuickBooks Desktop, 50% QuickBooks Online. We try to balance it. From time to time, we'll have a special guest. Like not too long ago, we had someone talking about value pricing or third-party apps, or we'll talk about topics related to practice management or things related to small business or accounting industries. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Long. I'm the owner of Long for Success. Thrilled to be a trainer for Intuit for 10 years this fall. I just realized a little bit ago that I first started teaching QuickBooks for Intuit back in 2007. So it's my 10-year anniversary. Really love that, and glad to have you guys joining us for this QB Power Hour. I'd like to invite you guys also to check out the Accounting VCon. Sandy Smith-Leva and I have I think it's our 5th annual Ultimate Accounting VCon coming up in a few weeks. So check that out. Love to have you join us for that. That's all, Hector. You're muted.
This is Hector Garcia.
There you are.
I work and live in the Miami area. I'm actually outside of the evacuation zone, so I'm going to stay home and weather the storm this weekend. So we were almost, I was about to cancel QE Power Hour, but I was able to get all the pre-hurricane preparations done. And I was very excited about doing this episode because it's, new features of QuickBooks Desktop 2018. So anyway, there's my email and my Twitter handle. If you need to contact me, I teach QuickBooks. If it has to do with QuickBooks, I probably do it. And I have a pretty extensive YouTube channel. You can search it via my name, Hector Garcia, CPA. Michelle also has a great YouTube channel. As Michelle mentioned, some of the upcoming recommended events is the next one's going to be Michelle's Accounting VCon. It's accountingvcon.com. It's online. It's paid. I don't know how much it is, Michelle. It's between $100 and $200. It's September 21st and 22nd, and it's all CPE. Then Intuit has a free VCon. It's not similar to Michelle's. It's different. That's very QuickBooks certificate, online certification, geared or focused, and that's going to be September 27th and 28th. Check that out over QuickBooksVCon.com. Now, a personal conference that I like to recommend because I've been following the Art of Value podcast for so many years is the Art of Value Conference. It's in Allen, Texas, and it's all about value pricing. So check them out, artofvalue.com/events. Then we have the QuickBooks Connect at San Jose, California, November 15th and 17th, and then Scaling New Heights next year in Atlanta, Georgia, June 17th to the 20th. About the CPE and ACE process. So we do give CPEs on this episode for advanced pro advisors. Every other episode or so, or at least 10 per year, are going to have ACE. So that's only for advanced pro advisors. If you're a CPA or the equivalent that just needs a CPE certificate, just remember you must attend live. It's not available for recordings, and we do record all these and post them into YouTube within a couple of days. You must be logged in for at least 50 minutes, and you have to answer a total of 3 polling questions out of the 4 that we give every time, and give it 2 to 3 weeks for the CPE certificates to get there. I know sometimes they're delayed, but they do get there. Trust me, they do, because I work tirelessly to issue those. And this particular episode is not approved for ACE. Now, real quick, let me run a quick polling question just while we're at it here, so we can take our first polling question. So I just wondering, I'd like to know which is the software package that you use for your own business if you're a small business owner, or for your own practice if you happen to be an accountant. So I'm mostly wondering not so much about your clients if you're an accountant, it's more about your specific practice. What are you using for your specific practice? How are you running your business or your practice? What are you using for that? Even if your customers use something else. Now, Michelle, you are 100% on QuickBooks Online already, correct?
Oh, mostly. I still have a few stragglers that I just help as a support, as they need it with desktop. And I still help some who are converting and doing some of those things as well, but primarily online.
Right. So it's interesting. We actually run 4 companies inside of our practice. And it's complicated why, but we do. And we have 1 in Enterprise, 1 in Desktop Accountant, and 2 in QBO. So at least from day to day, we're touching all of them. So that's how we stay sharp with them. But yeah, I'm not 100% in QuickBooks Online or Desktop. It's pretty representative of where I am. I am somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that's 92% of the votes. I'll go ahead and close the polling. As a reminder, we need those answers, whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. We need to answer something for you to be eligible for the CPE credit. So I'll share the results because some folks are wondering. We're talking about 640 people that are logged in live right now. So this is good representation of mostly accountants and pro advisors. And notice that still a overwhelming majority, it's on QuickBooks Desktop. So that's great. That means that there'll be at least some excitement around it. Okay, so real quick, before we jump into 2018, if you don't mind, I apologize for the people that are way on top of the game. I know this stuff by hand. It is a little bit repetitive, but I would like to do a quick recap of the improvements that were done in 2016 and 2017 for context for 2 reasons. One is a lot of folks don't upgrade every single year. They upgrade every 2 to 3 years. So a lot of times, you show off what 2018 has, and if you're coming from 2014 or 2015, you kind of miss out that there's also a few other awesome features that were added through 2016 and 2017. So let me go through them real quick. In 2016, they added the bill tracker, which is similar to the invoice tracker or the income tracker. Allows you to manage accounts payable in bulk. It allows you to clear email later on forms. So you have a whole bunch of forms that say email later, you can clear them in bulk. They added the this fiscal year to last month report filter. They also added the capacity for you to filter custom fields for item-based reports. So if you're grouping your items or classifying them based on a custom field, you can now see them in the item-based reports. It now has label printer support, so you can print labels from QuickBooks. It can automatically copy the ship to address for drop shipments that are converted from estimates or sales orders into purchase orders. Now that's only available in Premier and above. The batch delete transactions that was added only for Accountant Edition and Enterprise editions to allow you to bulk delete or batch delete certain transactions. In 2016, they added the ability for you to sort columns in the payment screen, and you can do calculations on numerical custom fields in item groups only for QuickBooks Enterprise. Then last year, on 2017, they added what was the biggest feature, scheduled reports, which allows you to email reports automatically from QuickBooks Desktop. Search as you type, which allows you to type any name within a customer name, a vendor name, an account, or an item in the field itself, and it will find them for you. Sort of similar how QuickBooks Online works. They added the ability to search and filter customer type and vendor type in the customer and vendor center. They also added a huge feature, which is showing the applied filters on reports, which is great. They added the capacity to do an in-between amount search on the custom search field. They also added a neat little box that allows you to search and select whenever you're creating filters that contain multiple items, multiple classes, multiple names. They also added an undeposited funds flag in the record deposit icon in the home screen, letting you know that there's a pending undeposited funds. They added a cleared flag on the credit card charges. I wish they had done it for deposits too, but they added it for credit card charges. And they also added the capacity to copy and paste line in timesheets. And they improved a little bit of the multi-user switch experience. Okay, so thank you for allowing me to give you at least that recap. Let's now talk about all the versions of QuickBooks that are now available as an offering through Intuit. And it's important to point them out because there was a little bit of a change this year. So on the desktop side, there's essentially 7 different SKUs that you can purchase, and you can extend it a little bit further. The Pro and the Premier SKU are also offered in Plus format, and the Plus format just means annual subscription, but it's the same exact software. On the Enterprise SKUs, there are actually 4 now. There used to be 3, Silver, Gold, and Platinum. Now there's the Accountant subscription, which is kind of almost one level above Platinum in terms of number of features that are available. Now, as of today is September 7th, 2017, the only versions that are available are the Accountant, Enterprise Accountant, and the Desktop Accountant Plus. So if you're an active QuickBooks Desktop Pro advisor, paying the $350 per year, you will have access to QuickBooks Desktop Accountant Plus, or paying the, I believe it's $550 per year, you will have access to both the Desktop Accountant and the Enterprise Accountant Plus. That being said, the demo for today will be done on the Enterprise Accountant subscription software, which I have installed in my computer. Okay, so let's go right into specifically what that SKU is. So the Accountant SKU for QuickBooks Enterprise added the same features that QuickBooks Platinum has, plus all the Accountant unique features. And I won't focus today's episode on that, but just letting you know what that is, except for the payroll. So if you're going to purchase QuickBooks Enterprise and you want the advanced inventory, advanced pricing, and the advanced sales order fulfillment, which we'll talk about briefly, you have to pick between Platinum or Accountant. Basically, if you want payroll, you get Platinum. If you don't want payroll, you get Accountant, because it has a little bit more extra features, even if you're dealing with a non-accounting practice. Okay, so here's the list. So I'm going to break it down into 3 groups, and I'm going to do demos of almost all of them, and I will point out which ones I won't do a demo for. So for all versions of QuickBooks Desktop, so we're talking about Pro, Premier, Accountant, Enterprise, Enterprise Accountant, all versions, we're going to have the new multi-monitor support. We're going to have past due stamp on invoices, the ability to search within chart of accounts. I will do a demo of each of these. We'll do a cash accrual toggle on reports. It's a quick button that can switch from cash to accrual. There's now a keyboard shortcut to copy and pasting lines within transactions. They added the capacity to add additional columns to 2 inventory reports, inventory valuation summary and inventory stock status report. The ability to use secure email for Webmail, so anyone using Gmail or Hotmail doesn't have to lower the security settings to use that protocol to send emails through QuickBooks. They have a new stay logged in preference, which they added in 2018, and they also backtracked to, I believe, 2017 and 2016 with the newest features, which is the ability for the user to exit QuickBooks and open it again without having to put a password every time to log in. Payroll liability flag, which I'll show you what that looks like. Then moving on to the Accountant editions, both for Desktop and Enterprise, we're going to have the new merge vendor features. I think and I hope that may be the most exciting feature that will show up in this webinar. And then we'll have for the Enterprise Accountant and Enterprise Platinum editions, which is the reason why I spent some time explaining the different editions, we're going to have 2 new features: enhanced sales order fulfillment with an Android app and mobile scanning support. Now, mobile scanning means via Wi-Fi. So we'll discuss that. I'm going to turn on the webcam and show you what that device looks like when we get to that point. So I am not going to do a demo on the very last feature because that one's a little bit extensive. So we're actually going to dedicate an entire webinar for that, which will be on September 21st. We'll talk about the enhanced sales order fulfillment and the mobile inventory scanning support. Okay, so let's get started. So the way the multi-monitor support works, you actually have to switch it on or off. So when you click on the view menu, you click on switch to multi-monitor mode. And what it essentially does is, and it's important to compare it with how it was last year. So last year, without multi-monitor support, you could actually expand your QuickBooks across multiple monitors. The problem was that if you were to maximize any of the specific windows in any of the monitors, it would expand throughout all monitors, 2, 3, whatever number of monitors you have, and then the maximize feature didn't become that useful. So what this feature essentially does is allows you to expand through up to 3 monitors. So when you first turn it on, it will ask you which of your 3 monitors you would like to, so which 2 of the 3 monitors you would like to enable. Basically, that's what it says. So you can enable 2 or 3, and basically it will make the leftmost monitor the home screen. So you're going to have the home screen, the toolbar, everything on the leftmost monitor, and then you can actually maximize screens individually within the 2 or the 3 monitors which you have enabled. Okay, there's a little button, there's a new button that they added on the top right of every window called move to the next monitor, which can also be accessed through a keyboard shortcut, Control Alt N for next. And basically it moves the screen, it toggles it, and it moves it from left to right through the monitor. So it's a quick way to sort of move it to monitors without having to like click and drag it across. So you can actually click it and it will toggle through them. Now, a couple of important things. I cannot demo that in a webinar just because of the format of a webinar. I can't have multi-monitor support. I did record a video, which is right there on the screen, which actually I actually recorded with a webcam with my actual iPhone, and I'm showing the 2 monitors and I'm switching back and forth because it is not possible through screen capture to appreciate the process of multi-monitor. You actually have to film it. So it was the only possible way for me to show you. So the demo, it's on that YouTube video, and I'll go to it real quick to kind of show you what that looks like. And just remember the Control Alt N shortcut. It's a really important one to know. Now, particularly, let me see that misspelled environment there. Let me go into this video to show you. So particularly important is a lot of folks that use QuickBooks Desktop nowadays, they're using a hosting. So they're using Right Networks or some sort of remote system, the remote desktop. Unfortunately, it's not going to work through a remote desktop or through a hosted environment, particularly because that is not multi-monitor support is not included in an environment like that. But let me show you in this video real quick where I actually zoom out. Can I show you what I mean? So I went in depth with this video, kind of showing the process. So I wanted to just kind of pause it here and show you. So the way this looks, and this is a part of the video I posted there. So the way it looks is once you enable multi-monitor support, you're going to see QuickBooks across 2 screens. And the minute you hit switch, you can actually move the home screen or any of the screens to any of the multi-monitors, and you can actually have, for example, what I feel is the most valuable piece. You can have live reports on one screen while maybe you're writing checks or using a check register on the other screen, and you're kind of seeing things happen live. So I wanted to kind of give you a quick preview of what that video looked like, and I think it may be useful to look at the video if you haven't been able to install QuickBooks 2018 yet. However, I'm going to tell you it's hard to appreciate the multi-monitor support until you actually install it or actually use it. Okay, so let's move on to past due stamp on invoices. Now, this is an awesome feature, and I think Intuit did an amazing job at executing it just because they not only added a past due stamp, they also added a toggle button. And this was the huge concern that a lot of accountants had is, hey, I don't want you to just, add a past due stamp to all my customers. It is quite possible that it is quite possible that there may be some customers in which I prefer not to show the past due stamp. For whatever reason, there may be something with the relationship with the customer or the agreement where just showing a past due stamp could be a bad thing. So let me go ahead and demo that, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my desktop. For now, Michelle, while I switch, are there any questions you think I should be answering?
Well, one question had come up, Hector, is to please note if there's any differences between these new features between U.S. and Canada.
I wish I knew. Unfortunately, I haven't. I don't have the Canadian version installed, so I haven't been able to explore it. And I was a beta tester for the U.S. version since July, so I've been knee deep into the U.S.
Right.
stuff. So I can't give that answer. I wish maybe one of the
A
folks
lot
were
of
into
times
it.
they are the same. So then there was another question: can you have separate companies on multiple monitors?
No, just one of the companies can be in multiple monitors.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and remember, this is release one. There's going to be enough feedback from users of things that, like, for example, the multiple company. I was having issues getting the second company open. So I wasn't sure if it was something with my beta release or something that just wasn't available yet, or maybe it may be available. So for the time being, I will tell you from my own test, it only works with a single company.
Okay. And do you want to do another poll question?
Sure, that's a good idea. But the next poll question, give me okay, let me just do another poll question. This works fine. Thank you. And Michelle, while the poll question is up, are there any other questions I can check in here?
Well, I was going to go ahead and say Nasir shared with us that he is in Toronto and subscribed to QB Desktop and have not received the 2018 stuff. So usually it starts rolling out about now. So yeah,
Right.
Hector was beta testing, and that's why you have access to
But
it and have been
US,
working with
no,
it.
actually, US officially released September 5th. So I'm not
Okay.
sure what again, I apologize on that. Yeah, I'm not sure about the Canadian version. Now, there's another really good question I'm seeing here. What if the monitors aren't aligned? So Kathy's asking a very specific question, and I wanted to address that too before I skip out. So thank you for that. So whenever you have multiple monitors, through Windows, you can choose whether these monitors are aligned at the top, aligned at the bottom, or they can have some custom alignment. And the purpose of aligning multiple screens has to do with when you move the mouse across monitors is to get that smooth continuity where you cross, you're to the right side of your left monitor and then it shows up on the right monitor kind of around the same height. If you actually don't align the monitors where the tops are aligned, the multi-monitor feature will not work. So that's a really good question. So you have to align them across. Now you can open multiple on the multiple company setup. You can open multiple companies across two monitors. On the two companies, which Account and Enterprise allows you to do. But what I don't think works is having both companies occupying both monitors. And by the way, that may be a little bit confusing as well, but whatever it is. Now, this is only, somebody's asking, is it available to clients yet? No, as of September 5th, only the Enterprise Accountant Edition and the Desktop Accountant Plus editions are going to be available. Okay, so we have about 92% of the votes. Let me go ahead and close the poll, and then I'll show the results real quick. It just came out 2 days ago, so naturally we have a huge percentage of people that haven't even looked at it, and there's a small group that don't even use QuickBooks Desktop, but I maybe just be curious about it. Okay, so let's talk about the past due stamp. So I'm gonna create a new invoice and kind of show you what that looks like. So I'm gonna create a new invoice. I'll pick a customer here at random, and I'll pick a date of the invoice somewhere in the past, and I will select a random item, whatever it happens to be, and put here 10,000. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now, you do have to save it for it to process. Now, based on the due date, so this is really, really important piece of information. So based on the due date, it will now figure out whether or not the invoice is past due. So it will show the user, the QuickBooks user, it's past due. However, there's a little note down there that says past due visible on print and email for this invoice. So if I go do a print preview of this invoice, I'm going to see a past due stamp in there. It's not going to show me a date or how many days it's late. It's just going to say past due. If I don't want that past due to show up for that particular invoice, all I do is I click on turn off and I hit OK, and it temporarily turns it off for the user. So if I go email it or print it, it doesn't say past due, but the QuickBooks user will visually always see the past due stamp. So the past due stamp is going to be useful for the user, of course, for the QuickBooks user, and then you're going to have the option to toggle it off and on that. Now, what's also neat about it is when you email the invoice, on the email screen itself, it may also show past due, even if when you sent it, it wasn't past due and then it became past due later. So in other words, if you email an invoice within the due period and your customer opens it afterwards, if it's sending that dynamic invoice, the electronic invoice, that will update automatically and show past due. So from that perspective, that's actually great. Okay, so that was the past due option. There really isn't much to discuss about that feature, but that's what that feature is. Okay, so let's go to the next feature, which is search in the chart of accounts. And this is as straightforward as it sounds. It's a search box just like we have in the item field. So if I go to my chart of accounts, I hit Control A. Now I have one big search box in the top. Whoops. Let me close that window. We have this big search box at the top, and it's important to point out that you can search only account names and account numbers. So you cannot search through the account descriptions or any other internal information that's on each account. So for example, if I want to have everything that has the word construction in it, I type CONS, hit search, and then it will narrow down to anything that has the word CONS anywhere in it. So it doesn't have to start with CONS. It could be somewhere afterwards. Okay, so the other piece is account numbers. So if I put here 401 and click search, it will give me all the account numbers that start with 401 or have 401 somewhere in the name. So either way, I find this useful, this tool extremely useful, and I will tell you specifically why. Is because I can use it with a combination of things. So for example, I'm going to show you a quick tip here, and this is not new to 2018, but the combination would be. So let's say, for example, I'm in the right check screen and I'm looking for an account number that has the word, I don't know, the word loan in it, right? Now, because of the new features of 2017, if I type the word, if I just type loan, let me try it again. So I'm going to type loan. It's going to find anything that has the word loan inside of it. But let's say, for example, the word loan is actually part of another word or is somewhere else. What I can do is right here through the right check screen or to the bill screen, I can click on Control L straight from there, which will open the chart of accounts for me. Then I can go into the search, type loan, hit search, and then find the actual one that I wanted that had loan in it, and then hit Control U, and it would bring it into my transaction. So that Control L, Control U with the new search box, it's awesome. And it works with accounts and sub accounts. So it works with both. Okay. So I just saw somebody asking if the sub accounts work with that feature. Okay. So let's move on to the next new feature, which is the cash accrual quick toggle. So this is exactly as the illustration shows. It is basically a quick button that you can do to switch any transaction from cash to accrual. So let's show that real quick. So I'm going to show the most typical report in which we would do something like that, which is the profit and loss report. And traditionally, before they added this little toggle here, that's where it is there. So traditionally, we had to click on customize report, click on cash, and then hit OK. Yeah, technically you could use shortcuts like Alt M, Alt U, and then enter, and you could switch. So yes, you could use keyboard shortcuts for that, but for most users that don't remember shortcuts, just having a quick button up there to switch from cash to accrual, it's really nice. And this show filters button, that was already there from the 2017 release, which is great also because it will also show you any active filters that are there. So that's actually a very minor feature, but for some folks that are switching from cash to accrual quite a bit, it could be useful. The other really cool thing they added was its keyboard shortcuts to copy and paste line in transactions. So let me show you what that looks like real quick. and I'll open up, let's say I'm going to open up an invoice. So let's say, for example, I'm writing up an invoice. Let me just go back to my other invoice I had here. I'm writing up an invoice and I wanted to duplicate one of these line items with everything the same, the account, the description, the quantity. So they added in 2015, I believe, the ability to copy line and paste line, or 2014. I don't remember which year they added that. But what they also added was a keyboard shortcut. So I can hit Control Alt Y to copy a line, and then let's say, for example, I want to come in here and I can hit Control Alt Y on my keyboard, which would be the equivalent of going into the edit menu and clicking on paste line, and it will bring it in there. For the folks that gave this feedback are doing a lot of copy and pasting, and they feel that right clicking to copy and paste is not as fast. So Intuit answered their prayers, per se, to add Control Alt Y and Control Alt V to copy and paste lines in transactions, which, by the way, also includes timesheets. So you can copy and paste in an invoice, in a purchase order, sales order, all the stuff, and also in a timesheet itself. Okay, so let's go to our next feature. Okay, so we'll maximize the screen, which is new columns on inventory reports. So for folks that use a lot of inventory-based reports, it is really, really useful to add additional features related to the specific items. This is mostly for inventory. Actually, it's 100% for inventory items. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me switch over to QuickBooks again. So I'll go to the reports menu. I'll go to inventory, and then I go to inventory stock status by item. So this works with both the valuation summary and the stock status by item. So I'll go to the stock status by item, and then I'm going to click on customize report on the top side. And before, just to kind of give you a picture, before 2018, this screen was completely blank. You couldn't actually choose what you wanted to see from here. So actually, this is actually pretty cool. So now I can actually pick and choose what information I want, because in many cases, the amount of information that we may be displaying someone is way too confusing. And you know that in the accountancy and consulting world, sometimes the less information we give to an end user, to a customer, to a manager, the better. So those reports contain way too much information. Now you can actually pick and choose what data you want them to show, and you can show the item, you can show the description. So you can pick and choose what data you want to see in there. Now, unfortunately, not all the fields are available there. Let me see if preferred vendor is. Okay, that's nice. Preferred vendor is in there. But I remember through my test, there were some crucial fields that I wanted, like some custom fields that were not there, but they're getting there. So I actually really thank Intuit for answering my needs, because this was one very specific need that I had when I was giving them feedback on what I needed. So that was the new columns in inventory reports. Now, what some people would consider minor features is they added the ability to have enhanced security for Gmail and Hotmail type of customers. So let me give you some background on this. So if any of you use QuickBooks Desktop and don't use Outlook and use Webmail like Gmail or Hotmail, you actually have to go into Gmail and Hotmail and lower the security settings in order for QuickBooks to be able to interact with your email server. Otherwise, it wouldn't allow you to log in. So it was actually a couple of extra steps. Some folks were having trouble doing it. The Intuit tech support team was getting inundated with requests regarding getting the email connected. So the Intuit development team actually added some additional enhanced security protocols so that you don't have to lower the security settings on your Gmail or Hotmail in order to be able to connect it with your QuickBooks. Now, the stay logged in feature is actually pretty neat. I'm going to log into the screen and show you. And this is new for 2018. And they're also backtracking this to the past 2 years and adding it to the latest release of those editions. So that's actually nice news that it's not only QuickBooks 2018. So what that is essentially is I'm going to go to the edit menu and go to preferences. And then I'm going to go to general and then company preferences, and you're going to see an area called manage login settings. Now, this is particularly useful to any folks that open and close multiple QuickBooks files from the same computer. And what you can do is you can tell it, okay, if I log out of my QuickBooks file and I log back in within 30 days, go ahead and keep me logged in, per se. That way I don't have to enter the password again. Now, there's a general rule. if you have advanced security turned on, which basically means you are using payroll, which has social security numbers of employees, or you're using uh, QuickBooks payments, which is potentially storing credit card information. Under both of those situations, you cannot enable this option. It will ask you for a password no matter what. And the reason for that is just security. But for most of the folks that are doing the logging in back and forth to different QuickBooks files, then that becomes a really useful feature. Now I'm gonna show one more before I do a demo. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show the slide, and then I'll discuss it real quick, and then I'll do the demo right after the polling question, which is on the accountant editions only. So both for QuickBooks Desktop Accountant and QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant, they added a new merge vendors feature. So it allows you to choose up to 4 vendors, and once you click next, it will ask you which is the main vendor or the one that has the truest information, and you click one button and it will merge all 4 vendors and take all their history as if it was one vendor in the first place. Extremely useful for folks using online banking and not noticing they're creating 2 or 3 vendors for the same, essentially the same vendor. Okay, so I'm gonna do a demo right after the polling question, and I'm going to ask you if which of these features seem to be the best one or the one you like best. I would love your feedback to know. And I didn't include them all. I included what I thought was the top 5 per se. And you would have to have a leap of faith on the merch vendors, because I know I haven't demoed it yet. But if it sounds enticing, then you could choose that. So the first option is the multi-monitor support. I should have put multi there. The second one is the search and chart of accounts. Third one is past due stamp. Third, improved inventory reports. And fourth, merch vendors. Michelle, is there a question that I should answer for the time being?
Yes, there was a question about, first of all, how many days can you stay logged in?
90 days. 90 days is the maximum.
Okay, and then another question, is it possible to run an item estimate versus actual report with quantities rather than just dollar amounts?
No.
Okay.
No, and that's also essentially not part of the QuickBooks 2018 release, but generally speaking, the answer is no.
And then somebody says the option to keep you logged in does not work if you run payroll on the company, question
Correct.
mark.
Correct. It doesn't work if you have what they call high sensitive information. So if you have social security numbers or credit card information, almost by, I'm not sure if it's by law, but I'm sure there's one state somewhere that will require you to password protect stuff. So because of that, Intuit said if it has payroll or if it has credit card payments, you have to put the password in there.
Okay, and then we had a lot of questions about the merging of vendors. Is this accountants only? How do you merge client vendors? Will the merge vendor feature in the accountant toolbox work on site at the client as well? So
Okay.
Several questions about that.
Right. So what we're about to do a demo on merge vendors. So the quick answers to that: it's only available on the accountant's queues. If a pro advisor logs into their QuickBooks to a client's Pro or Premier account and they enable the accountant's toolbox, that is going to be available there. So it will be available in QuickBooks Enterprise, in QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant, in QuickBooks Accountant, and through the accountant's toolbox if you're an accountant or a pro advisor supporting it. Now, another question is, will the merge vendor work on accountant's copy for the company file? I have not tested it, so I cannot give you the answer whether it'll work on accountant's copy or not. My guess would be if it doesn't affect previous periods, you should be able to, but I think generally speaking, if you can merge, you can do it whether with the tool or without the tool. Can you merge customers? No, so this is only for vendors. Okay, so I have 92% of the votes. I'll go ahead and close the polling question for that. And then just for the people that are curious, which is the tool that they like the most, they like the new multi-monitor support the most. And there's search in the chart of accounts, what's popular, and also merge vendor seems to be popular. Once I demo it, it may be even more popular. Michelle, is there one more thing?
And some people wanted to mark more than one on that. You only let them mark one. So.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to know which is the the one that seems the most.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go ahead and do a demo on merge vendors. And this is as simple and elegant as it can get. As a matter of fact, when we were beta testing it, it used to be a much more complex tool, and we basically, our feedback was, let's just make it simpler. We actually don't need any more moving parts. Let me show you how that works. So you click on the accountant menu, and then you go down to client data review, and then it says merge vendors. Okay, so I'm going to go to merge vendors, and then basically it's going to give you your entire vendor list. I can actually search it. I mean, this is not a good example, but if I had like multiple gas stations that they all had the word mobile in it or something like that, and I click search, obviously it's going to show me all the different mobiles or 7-Elevens or McDonald's, all those vendors that we tend to create multiple times. So then I'm going to grab, for example, let's say I'm going to grab 3 vendors that are essentially vendors that are duplicated. I'm just choosing the ones from the sample file. Then I'm going to click on next, and then it's going to say, it's going to give you a warning saying, hey, by the way, this particular vendor has a 1099 or something like that could cause a problem, or this particular vendor is linked to a bill payment, automatic bill payment, that you can merge it. I mean, there's some restrictions around, when a vendor is connected to some other service. But generally speaking, you're going to choose the 3 vendors, and then it's going to give you some really interesting information. First of all, it's going to tell you whether or not the vendor is active. I'm going to go back for a second to show you. This would actually show active and inactive vendors. So this will show both active and inactive. So I don't have to go back and make them inactive for me to merge them. So very useful. People to end up merging inactive vendors, actually a very common thing. And we made sure to give the development team feedback to saying a lot of times it's the inactive vendors that we want to merge because we want to clean the file, but in other cases it's different. Then I'll give you the reason why they limited to 4 is because of this screen. Okay, because honestly, I was a little bit against 4. I wanted to have a lot more than 4. I got some clients that will create the same gas station like 27 times just with different numbers at the end. So I wish it could do more than 4, but for the time being, the tool it's solving for 2 issues, not just duplicate vendors created on the bank feed side, but also duplicate vendors that could contain transaction history, like open bills and bill payments and things like that. So because of that, it was a little bit more delicate. So it gives you a few pieces of information. It tells you which vendor has an open balance. It tells you how many transactions had that vendor had, let's say, for example, in the past 2 years. So there's 8 transactions. It tells you when the most recent transaction is and what the oldest transaction is. And this stuff is useful sometimes for context to know which is the predominant vendor or the one that possibly has the best information. And because you are essentially going to lose the addresses and phone numbers and all the contact information of all the other vendors, it allows you to then choose which is the one that's going to maintain the new information. It also allows you real quick to edit it on the fly. So I think the development team was extremely elegant on giving you those little features without crowding the screen. And then it gives you 2 options, backup and merge, which basically will force you to do a backup because you are required to do a backup if you don't want to lose your information, because once you merge, it cannot be undone. Or you can skip the backup and click merge, and notice that it's not the default selected option. Click on merge, and it gives you one more warning message. Are you sure? Make sure that you back up, or be warned that you can't undo it. Click yes, and then essentially all the historical information for that vendor will now become as if it was one vendor in the first place. And one of the areas where people ask me, well, why is that useful? Why is that so important? I'll give you one. There's a report that I usually give to my clients, which is like expenses by vendor. Let me see where that is. I always forget what it is. I believe that I may create that by hand, but it's not purchases by vendor. It's expenses by vendor. I don't know what it is, but I can create it by hand. I'm going to go into my profit and loss. Oh, here it is. Expenses by vendor summary. So a lot of times I give my clients this report sort of in context so we can review and see, does this make sense? Are these vendors correct? And then sometimes we end up seeing multiple vendors that are essentially the same vendor. They just have a slightly different name, or for whatever reason, the bookkeeper didn't realize that we're the same vendor. So then this report doesn't become as useful. And also when you look at the same report, let's say in a detailed format, and you also want those expenses grouped by the right vendor, merging vendors in bulk becomes really, really useful. So I'm going to take a moment to answer any questions about this particular feature, and then I'm going to talk about the enterprise features real quick. So, Michelle, is there one that you can point out to be?
What happens to the merged vendors? Are they completely deleted?
Yes, they're completely deleted. So in QuickBooks Desktop, there's no history of merged vendors. So in QuickBooks Online is a little bit different because it keeps it, but yeah, completely.
And
And
then,
yeah, go ahead.
and then, if a merged vendor has an outstanding bill, will it change the vendor name on the bill?
Absolutely. So it will now make it the new vendor. Correct. Now
And
somebody's asking, the three vendors you merged have nothing in common. Why did you merge them? So I want to just reiterate that was just for the demo. I selected three at random and merged them. In the real world, because I'm using a sample file, in the real world you would pick like four different McDonald's or four different Chevrons. Or I have some clients that don't like to have all the restaurants listed, and at the end of the year they want to merge all the restaurants into one vendor called restaurant. I mean, there's different applications for it. So my example probably didn't depict what makes the most sense for most people, but yeah.
okay, and excuse me, here's another great question. You had said how you could merge the four, but could you chain the vendors? In other words, merge the first four, then merge an additional ones into that new master.
Yes, yeah. You just have to click the in the if you're gonna do 20 of them, you just have to use the tool 5 times.
Okay, and does this show on the audit trail?
No, no. So the entire history of that vendor will show as if it was the merged vendor in the first place. So you're not going to keep any historical information about the vendors being different. This is to correct the problems of people creating duplicate vendors. I would say that's likely to be the only valuable piece. The other piece is when you have these really large QuickBooks files and people don't want to delete the history, but they're rubbing up against that 14,500 name limit, and they don't want to go to enterprise yet, and they want to maybe clean up a whole bunch of vendors they haven't used in a while. This is why the screen itself tells you when the vendor was last used. So if you see a vendor that was last used 2-3 years ago, you're probably more okay with merging it than one that you've been using recently. Somebody else is asking, is this a vendor in QuickBooks Online? The answer is no. Is this available for merging customers, accounts, or items? The answer is no. However, this is a catalyst for a whole slew of merging applications that I think the Intuit development team is interested on listening. This is a feedback that we gave to a couple of us that sit on the beta testing council gave to them, and they wanted to start with customers, and it was a much bigger ordeal because you have jobs as well, and it just gets really tricky with jobs. So they started with vendors, and they want to see what the feedback is. And if people absolutely love this feature, they may move on to customers or do more than four, and possibly would be awesome to do items and accounts as well. I think this, for cleanup purposes, this would be really, really great. If there's no more questions, I'll talk about the last couple of slides before we end the webinar. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So somebody says, to reiterate, all the historical transactions will show up as if it belonged to the merged vendor in the first place. You will have no historical information about the vendors having a different name. Once you merge them, you merge them. Okay, so let's move on to QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant Edition and QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum Editions only. Now, there was one major new feature added to QuickBooks Enterprise this year in 2018, but just one. However, it is huge. I mean, it is huge from the perspective of what the possibilities are. I mean, this is the first release, and it only has one application, but I think itself it's going to have. I mean, we were talking to developers and throwing ideas out there. There's so many possibilities with what they've done. So essentially what they did was they created an advanced sales order fulfillment that allows you to plan your picking from sales orders through a mobile app. Okay, so this is going to be much easier to demo on the September 21st webinar, where I'm going to turn on my webcam and show you everything with barcodes and stuff like that. And I also have a video on that, so I'll give you the link on that because it's hard to show in a webinar because it contains actual hardware. However, essentially the science behind it is we have a sales order and we're in the back end. So I'm going to paint you a picture on what this is solving. We have a sales order, or we have several sales orders, and we're sitting in the back end on the back office somewhere. We want to tell the warehouse people to go pick, this 10, 20, 30 orders. Right now, you actually have to print a pick list. So you have to go into QuickBooks, print a pick list, hand it to the warehouse people and say, go pick it. And then once they pick it means they go out to the shelf, pick it, put it in a box, and then tell you, hey, these are ready to ship. They give it back to the back office so the back office can figure out whether they're going to invoice them or ship them based on the payment conditions or whatever happens to be. This whole process happens to be very manual and very, sort of person-to-person communication intensive. What they have done now is they added the ability for you to have an Android device. So I'm going to talk about the two options: the Android device without the barcode scanner, and then the Android device with the barcode scanner. And the dynamic is going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the functionality will actually be the same thing. So with the mobile device, from QuickBooks, you're going to be able to tell QuickBooks, okay, so mobile device A or mobile device V, or you can name them based on the person. So you can say Johnny or Mary in the warehouse. You go pick this sales order. So I'm going to turn on the webcam real quick just so you can see. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Let me see. Okay, so I think you can see it on the screen. So basically you have a mobile device. This is an Android device. The people from Intuit send me this. Michelle, you can see the webcam, correct?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is actually the scanner device, but this is just an Android device. And what ends up happening is through QuickBooks, and I'm gonna switch over to QuickBooks real quick. This deserves a lot more than 5 minutes, so that's why we're gonna dedicate a whole webinar to that in a second. So let me open up QuickBooks here real quick just to show you. So essentially, what we are gonna do is we're gonna go to the Edit menu. We're going to go to Preferences, then we're going to go to Items and Inventory, Company Preferences, and then we're going to click on Advanced Inventory Settings right there on the screen, and we're going to enable the device. Once we enable the device, we are going to tell QuickBooks to the sales order fulfillment screen, and you can't see the new screen through this version of QuickBooks here, but we're actually going to assign a sales order to a particular what we call it a picker. And let me just show you in the screen here because I can't have it. So we're going to assign open sales order with the warehouse, and we're going to choose a picker. Now the picker itself will now receive, let's see the device turned off for a second. The picker itself will now receive an order that says, hey, you have to pick this order. So they're going to pick on that order there. They're going to select it, and then it's going to tell you all the products that you have to pick. Now, if you have just a regular Android device, which you can buy for like $100 to $200, whatever happens to be, if you just have an Android device, then the user is basically going to say, yeah, I'm going to pick this one, and they'll pick one, and then hit pick, and then just go to this process. And then once it's done picking, it will confirm, and then now it's going to send the information to QuickBooks, letting them know, hey, these 3 orders have been picked. Now, in addition to that, you can also use your barcode scanner. So in the same token, you pick the order, and then you use the barcode scanning feature. You basically are gonna then scan the product, and it will actually tell you, hey, this product is in stock, this product is not in stock, or this product is not available in the sales order. You should not be picking this or this, or you can basically confirm. So now it basically simplifies the process through the users. I'll turn off the webcam here in a second. It simplifies the process through the users, so the users can now use a Android device and the barcode scanning to complete a pick, tell the back end that the order is ready to ship, and then they can make the decision to do whatever it is that they're going to do. They're going to invoice it, they're going to ship it, whatever happens to be. So this is the first step about it. Now, some really important notes. Like I said, on September 21st, on the next QB Power Hour, we'll go into in-depth. I'll turn on the webcam again. I'll scan some product. It just requires a lot of preparation, a lot of time to show off this particular feature, but it'll be worth it. Trust me, it'll be great. But it also gives me some time to test it while we're at it. You can use any Android device, which you can buy, for a couple $100. But if you buy a specific device that I was showing you earlier, that's called the Motorola Zebra MC40, and I've seen them online anywhere between $800 to $1,300. Now, I don't have any clarity around whether Intuit will sell this device as well, or if Intuit resellers are going to be sell the hardware. That information is not available yet, so I'm not 100% sure. The two things that we've been asking Intuit for this to do, which is what I was mentioning, where I thought the possibilities would be awesome, would be that we can actually get the ability to receive with this device and do inventory adjustments with this device. So we're giving Intuit heavy feedback that now that we have this mobile platform to do it, these two additional things, receiving and inventory adjustments, will make the feature more complete. Now, I can't tell you anything about what they have said about it, but I am very hopeful about those features coming up in the future, and that's the most I can say about that. For the time being, it's going to be used only for inventory picking, and then the users will give into it some feedback around that. Now, this particular set of features, I recorded them on a video, so the link is on the screen. Also on the handout, if you have the handout, where I actually show you the whole process, but I'm going to show it live on the 921 QB Power Hour episode as well. Okay, that was actually pretty good for an hour. A lot of new features. Now, the Intuit team also has a dedicated line for accountants, for the new enterprise accountants. So there's the phone number and there's the link, and that's the only version of QuickBooks Enterprise that can be bought for now, which is the accountant edition. So if you have some additional questions, technical questions, strongly recommend that you take a picture of the phone number on the screen. That's the sales support team, not the support team, right? So the people that are there that know about the new features are mostly reachable through this line, and that's the link that will tell you that will give you all the information about the new QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant Edition. All right, Michelle, before we wrap things up, are there any questions that I think I should answer now, or? And I know Michelle had to leave a little bit earlier, so she may be gone by now. Anyway, let me go through. I mean, we have 2 minutes left, so let me run the last polling question here. And the Intuit Enterprise team would like to know whether or not you would like to get some information via email about the new Enterprise queue and give them permission to send you some information. So Intuit did provide a lot of support for me to put this webinar together. There are some folks from Intuit in the back end answering a lot of questions, and also, they're very encouraged for helping, accountants especially recommend QuickBooks Enterprise to their customers, or QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant to their customers, or for their own. Now, somebody says, when will the 2018 edition be available for purchase? As I mentioned, the Accountant edition is available now, and any other editions haven't been announced yet, but historically speaking, it's end of September, early October. Okay, let me see. Somebody says, yeah, I agree on inventory count. Oh, there was one little feature I didn't go over, and I think I missed it or may have skipped over. There's a payroll liability flag, which basically gives you a little icon on the home screen, letting you know that there's an outstanding payroll liability. So I apologize. There was one little feature that I did not mention. So sorry for that. Maybe I skipped through it inadvertently. The slides are available to be downloaded. So in the slides, there are the 2 links for the 2 videos where I showed those extra things. So we still have the polling question up, the last polling question, before we wrap things up. And then it will take me maybe about 1 more minute to wrap this up, and then we will be done. Let me see what else is in here. Any compatibility for Apple products? So no, they made the decision to make it Android only and not Apple, specifically because of costing. Getting a barcode scanner in an Apple device would have been much more expensive. And generally speaking, you can get an an Android device at a half, sometimes a third of the price of QuickBooks Enterprise. Of an Apple product, sorry. So that's why they decide to do Android only. Can you enable multiple Android devices or barcode scanners? The answer is yes, and I don't know if there is in fact a published limit. So I don't know what the limit is or what the limit should be, but for the time being, you can have multiple, and I would probably guess unlimited Android devices doing the picking for you, and they could be from different warehouses too. So you get both the multiple warehouse support and the multiple device support as well. Let's see. That's it. I think that's as many questions as I can answer for the time being. Okay, so thank you to our sponsors, T-Sheets, number one rated app in apps.com. Create, manage, and approve timesheets from any device, tsheets.com. Arrow Workflow, the only uh, workflow management tool created by pro advisors for pro advisors. It integrates with QuickBooks Online only, but you can use it as a standalone product. Arrowworkflow.com and HubDoc, the most popular document aggregator for QuickBooks Power users. Download, automate your bank statements and check image automation from your clients. Check them out at hubdoc.com. By the way, both T-Sheets and HubDoc have free accounts for pro advisors. The upcoming episodes, we're going to have an episode in 3 weeks, deep dive into QuickBooks Enterprise 2018 new features, which will focus on the barcode scanner and the Android app. We'll go into detail about how that works. Then we'll have the next episodes October 5th and 19th. We are tentatively, they will both be ACE, or maybe one in October and one in November. And then we're going to have an episode November 2nd. We're going to skip because of QB Connect and Thanksgiving. Then we're going to have another episode on November 30th. And our last episode of the year will be December 14th. We'll talk about the top apps for 2017 and then continue January 4th of 2018. Anyway, thank you very much for being part of the QB Power Hour. I really hope that you enjoyed the new features and you learned something new. Continue the conversation in Facebook and the LinkedIn group that Michelle runs. Thank you very much.